from Team Trump about this new fight between Republican leaders and the intel agencies, suggesting there was Russian interference in the election to benefit Donald Trump. But fortunately, we have Kellyanne Conway with us tonight, so we can ask her live. Kellyanne, great to see you.
Thank you, Megyn.
What do you make of the fact that the CIA and other spy agencies basically thumbed their nose at their congressional oversight leaders who are supposed to be there for us to keep an eye on them when it comes to this assertion that leaked out to the Washington Post on Friday?
We should all be very concerned about that, because you had a closed-door House Intelligence Committee briefing, and no sooner did people walk out, apparently, than some folks were talking to the media. That's unfortunate, and at some level, maybe not in this instance, Megyn, but at some point it could put all of us at risk. And for what purpose? To politicize or to curry favor with the mainstream media? None of that is worth leaking secrets.
But do you think that's what they're doing? This is what I was trying to do with Congressman King.
Yes.
The notion that, the CIA is doing anything other than working to protect us would sound very foreign to most people.
Well, and I'm not
suggesting that. Do you
believe
they're politicizing this?
No, I think people who want this to be the permanent campaign, who are the election deniers, frankly, and there's a whole group of them. It's not just Team Hillary, but it's a whole group of people who never even conceived the possibility that Donald Trump would be their president, and he's been for 35 days now. They are politicizing it. No, I believe, as the president-elect has said, which is more important than my opinion, he has great faith in the intelligence community. He said that as recently as this weekend. But in this particular instance, if you read some of these news accounts in mainstream papers where people are reading something saying it must be true, I just read 5 paragraphs strong where there is an intimation or an outright assertion that Russian interference changed the election result. That is just not proven. That is just false, and it's dangerous to our democracy. I went back and I looked at what Hillary Clinton said on live television at the last debate in Las Vegas on October 19th. And when Donald Trump said, "I'll keep you in suspense whether I'll accept the election results," she shot back with, "This is really scary."
She thought it was horrifying.
She thought it was horrifying, but she said, "I will accept the election results," because she thought she'd win. And now that she hasn't, I think she would be the strongest voice to come out at this moment, Megyn. Maybe she'll come and sit here tomorrow night and tell you.
Not bloody likely.
That she wants to call off the dogs. She wants everybody to stop suggesting this without any proof of
Also not likely. Let me ask you about these meetings today. And by the way, is it true that he didn't have Twitter there? Because I know they say they weren't big enough. But the report is that there was a dispute about whether there could be an emoji, the little characters, showing crooked Hillary during the campaign, and Twitter refused, and that Trump was ticked off.
I've never heard discussion of that at all. That would be too unserious given what the stakes are here and how these forums are put together.
He's
I think
not
you have
always
to make
serious.
choices.
Sometimes he's
very focused.
Sometimes he's lighthearted. Sometimes
he's very lighthearted. He's humorous, but he's very serious. He really has the gravity and the responsibility, and I think, frankly, the humility that comes with being the president-elect. He's been in there every day working very hard. I thought today's meeting was fantastic, not just because they were his, quote, political opponents. That doesn't matter in this regard. It matters that you're talking to people, along with the president and the vice president of the United States, Megyn, who actually can make a difference and increase vocational educational opportunities, really get serious about cybersecurity.
Well,
and
at
of
least
course repatriate those funds.
At least he's hearing them. There can be no criticism of him for hearing.
In fact, his final
viewpoints.
comment was he'd like to do that more often, perhaps even have a quarterly tech meeting.
Now the question will be, once they don't do what he likes, what does he do to them? And does the relationship continue? Okay, let me ask you this. He's taking some heat, and so are the Trump sons, for attending that meeting, Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump Jr. and Eric Trump, because they're the ones who are supposed to take over the Trump organization. And Donald Trump is under fire for not fully divesting himself from his corporation yet. He says the boys are going to run it, but if they're going to run it, what were they doing at that meeting? And shouldn't he more clearly be drawing the lines between the political side of the Trump organization and the business side?
I think that's an unfair accusation against the Trump, quote, adult kids, from people who, again, are just not happy with the election result. And here's why I say that. They can sit in a meeting where their father is convening with the nation's largest tech titans, who also have a responsibility, I think, to the public good, to make sure that we have educational, vocational opportunities.
No, but the next time Facebook or Google deals with Eric or Donald Trump Jr. on a matter relating to the Trump organization, if they ever do,
I think that's
then they understand these are both businessmen and connected and spokespeople to the president.
I think that's really unfair to them, because they're not spokespeople.
This isn't coming from Megyn Kelly. This is coming from a lot of people.
I know that. I'm hitting back at those who are suggesting. I read the same reports and the same Twitter feeds, Megyn, and I think it's incredibly irresponsible to say that that Don Jr. and Eric and Ivanka and Jared can't be in a meeting with
Well,
tech
Ivanka
giants
and Jared are
because-
different because they're supposedly not going to be running the Trump organization.
But look,
the
these
boys
are his
in a different
sons.
district.
These are his sons.
I know, but
and
he's got to
they're
choose, does he not? I mean, are we going to continue to see them in government-related meetings while they're running the Trump organization?
Here's what I do know.
Are we?
That there's a lot of activity on the 25th and 26th floor of the Trump Tower right now with lawyers and protocol officers at great expense to the Trump family, frankly, trying to figure out how best to structure and how best to comply with protocols so that this very unusual situation where you don't have a typical politician who just moves his or her government pension to the next government job, but somebody who's an incredibly brilliant and successful businessman who has assets on many different continents.
Understood.
Trying to...
But the country has a right to believe in its leaders and to understand there are clear lines that have been drawn when it comes to potential conflicts
and they're
of
going
interest.
to announce that, but aren't we happy that you have the transparency and the openness of seeing them in the meeting?
Well, if it's inappropriate, the transparency is like, okay, great, we would have found out. It's not like there were a lot of people there.
It's not inappropriate.
But the question is whether it is clear that, you know, this line has been drawn between the two sides.
These are just incredibly capable executives in the Trump Corporation who will continue to...
No question, but they're going to have to choose which horse they're on. Great to see you, Kellyanne.
Thank you.
All the best. Thank you. So major players...
Hey, if you like this video, please help my channel grow by liking, sharing, and subscribing. It really helps to get the word out there, and it super motivates me to make more videos. Thanks a lot.
Now with more, Newt Gingrich. He served as Speaker of the House. He's a Trump supporter and author of the book Treason. Great to see you, Mr. Speaker. Thanks for being here. So
it's good to be back.
I mean, with Cook and many other nonpartisan independent pollsters now saying that the Senate is likely lost to the Republicans, what does that say? I mean, if Donald Trump loses this White House race and the Republicans lose the Senate, does that suggest that the Republicans nominated the wrong candidate at the top of their ticket?
The next 2 weeks are a contest of two parallel universes. I just listened to that report. First of all, I used to hang out with Charlie Cook when he would explain that Donald Trump was hopeless and would not get the nomination. I like Charlie. That doesn't mean he's infallible. But let's take the report we just got. Republicans are actually outvoting Democrats in Florida. They're outvoting Democrats in Pennsylvania. That's unprecedented. They've cut the Democratic lead.
You predict a win in Pennsylvania?
I think they might.
Really? Do you think Trump's going to win Pennsylvania?
Look, all I can report to you right now is they're outvoting the Democrats in early voting, which is also true in Florida, which is unprecedented.
But all of the polls in Pennsylvania have her winning.
What?
All of the polls in Pennsylvania have her ahead.
I know. I just told you we have two alternative universes right now. In Iowa, for example, the Democrats are 50,000 votes behind where they were with Barack Obama in turnout. The governor is very confident we're going to carry Iowa, which Obama carried last time. I could just carry you through case after case like this. In Minnesota, we're almost certainly going to win the congressional seat up around Duluth, which is a very Democratic area, but it deeply dislikes Hillary Clinton. And represent now.
But let me just ask you. Let me just ask you, because you say it's two alternate universes. I mean, these are sort of small examples of how he might be ahead in early voting and so on. But I'm telling you that the Fox News decision desk just moved Iowa, that you just mentioned, Indiana, 2nd Congressional District in Maine. All of them moved left, moved more likely to vote for Hillary Clinton. And in fact, all of the moves that have been on this map over the past 3 weeks by Larry Sabato, by Cook, by the Fox News decision desks, these are nonpartisan outlets that are just trying to call the electoral
scoreboard. Not nonpartisan outlets. Every outlet you described as part of the establishment.
Fox News, really? Are we? I don't think so. And every state they've moved it to the left, towards Hillary. And you tell me whether that's all made up.
No, I think they're two alternative universes. You have a poll which suggests that she's going to get a Barack Obama turnout among African Americans. I don't think that's going to happen. You have a Washington Post ABC News poll where they took out 8% of the vote because they didn't like the way it voted. Look, I've been around long enough. I remember when the Detroit Liberal newspaper on the Sunday before the election said John Engler would lose by 14 points. He won the governorship that year. I don't take polls as seriously as people who've never run for office.
But your
I can tell you.
your candidate loves them and has touted them from the beginning. And he's been behind in virtually every one out of the last 40 polls that we've seen over the past month. That's the reality.
Look, if you want to assume the election's over, skip the next 2 weeks and we can talk about the future.
I'm not assuming anything. I'm asking you whether you believe your candidate's behind based on these numbers and what it says about the down ballot races.
I believe the odds are at least 1 in 3 and maybe better than that the difference in intensity and the difference in determination and the degree to which Hillary Clinton is clearly the most corrupt, dishonest person ever nominated by a party all mean that the odds are pretty good she's not going to win. Mm-hmm. Now, I actually believe that. This is not just because I'm for Donald Trump. I actually believe the American people
so let me ask you about that.
By this.
So let's assume she is corrupt, right? She was just as corrupt 3 weeks ago and 3 months ago, and she would have been corrupt and collapsing physically on September 11th of this year, and her poll numbers tanked. But then you know what happened. He had a rough first debate. He took the bait on Alicia Machado. He stayed in that trap for a week. The Access Hollywood tape came out, which was not produced by Hillary Clinton. That was Trump on camera talking about grabbing women.
Look, I just heard you go through this with Governor Pence. I get it. I know where you're coming from. But let me point out something to you.
Sure.
The 3 major networks spent 23 minutes attacking Donald Trump that night and 57 seconds on Hillary Clinton's secret speeches. You don't think this is a scale of bias worthy of Pravda and Izvestia? I mean, you want to know why Donald Trump's had a rough time?
If Trump is a sexual predator, that is...
He's not a sexual predator.
Okay,
you
that's
can't
your
say
opinion.
That.
I'm not taking a position on
that
it.
statement.
I'm
sick and tired of people like you using language that's inflammatory, that's not true.
Excuse me, Mr. Speaker.
Donald
you have
Trump
no idea whether it's true or not. What we know is that there are at least...
Neither do you.
That's right, and I'm not taking a position on it, unlike
yes, you are. When you use the words, you took a position.
So what
I think it's very unfair of you to do that, Megyn.
Incorrect.
I think that is exactly the bias people are upset by.
I think that your defensiveness on this may speak volumes, sir.
No,
what I said
let me just
is...
suggest to you.
No. Let me make my point, and then I'll give you the floor. What I said is, if Trump is a sexual predator, then it's a big story. And what we saw on that tape was Trump himself saying that he likes to grab women by the genitals and kiss them against their will. That's what we saw. Then we saw 10 women come forward after he denied actually doing it at a debate to say that was untrue. He did it to me. He did it to me. We saw reporters. We saw people who had worked with him, people from Apprentice, and so on and so forth. He denies it all, which is his right. We don't know what the truth is. My point to you is, as a media story, we don't get to say the 10 women are lying. We have to cover that story, sir.
Oh, sure. Okay, so it's worth 23 minutes of the 3 networks to cover that story, and Hillary Clinton in a secret speech in Brazil to a bank that pays her $225,000, saying her dream is an open border where 600 million people could come to America. That's not worth covering.
That is worth covering.
You want to go back through the tapes of your show recently? You are fascinated with sex, and you don't care about public policy.
Me?
Now, that's what I get out of watching you tonight.
You know what, Mr. Speaker? I'm not fascinated by sex, but I am fascinated by the protection of women and understanding what we're getting in the Oval Office. And I think the American voters would like to know.
And therefore, we're going to send Bill Clinton back to the East Wing because, after all, you are worried about sexual predators.
Yeah, listen, it's not about me. It's about the women and men of America. And the poll numbers show us that the women of America in particular are very concerned about these allegations and in large part believe that they are a real issue. And don't dismiss the women summarily.
Do you want to comment on whether the Clinton ticket has a relationship to a sexual predator?
We, on the Kelly File, have covered that story as well, sir. I will tell you the polls. I just want to hear you
use the words. I want to hear you words. Bill Clinton, sexual predator. I dare you. Say Bill Clinton, sexual predator.
Mr. Speaker,
disbarred by the Arkansas bar. Disbarred by the Arkansas bar. $850,000 penalty.
Excuse me, sir. We on the Kelly File have covered the Clinton matter as well. We've hosted Kathleen Willey. We've covered the examples of him being accused as well, but he's not on the ticket. And the polls also show that the American public is less interested in the deeds of Hillary Clinton's husband than they are in the deeds of the man who asks us to make him president, Donald Trump. We're going to have to leave it at that, and you can take your anger issues and spend some time working on them, Mr. Speaker. Thanks for being here.
And you too. You too.